Hey guys, this is Hawk. Welcome back to the channel and to Grounded, where since the last time I recorded, I have been grinding. So let's talk about everything that I've been doing. First of all, right now I'm in the middle of, I've got all these grass planks because I decided to kill the Black Widow again, which we'll talk about in a minute. But every time I get to this point, I have to jump down into the pond because of the fact that you can't get back up on this rock once you get up here. So I decided I'm going to build a pathway across here just so that this is taken care of, so that I can get across whenever I would like to without having to jump into the pond that is just infested with spiny water fleas. I don't need these. Get rid of them. And part of the reason I'm coming over here right now is I'm also finishing constructing a zipline anchor over here for this same reason, so that it's a little easier for me to get over here to the Black Widow and other parts of the upper yard without having to go through the pond around the Castle Moldork playset. So the reason that I was back over here, like I mentioned, is that I was over here to kill the Black Widow, who's somewhere back there. We have killed her before. She has respawned since then. I think she's kind of somewhere back in this vicinity. I also went up here. I had mentioned we were going to do this at some point, but we never actually got around to it yet. But this is the toolbox, I believe. Or no, I'm sorry, that's the lawnmower. This is the toolbox then. There is a Black Widow that lives under there as well. I needed Black Widow venom in order to be able to construct a Widow Dagger. This thing is actually good for, I believe it's got some poison damage. It's a lot of poison. It's very fast. I have it right now leveled up to level 5. It's at the point right now where I've got to make some sort of determination about whether I want this to be mighty, minty, salty, spicy, whatever. So those of you that have actually been mentioning about the Black Widow dagger, let me know. My instinct would be to go mighty just because it's already got poison damage anyway, but just curious to know, those of you that are actually using it, please let me know what you think is going to be something that's going to be good for me to use on that. Anyways, I actually needed the level 3 dagger in order to be able to collect the pond moss that we were talking about in the last episode. So I did actually go up here, and the pond that you need to go to for the pond moss, I believe it is this one. It also has spiny water fleas in it, or at least has one spiny water flea in it. The spiny water flea was stuck when I got there. So it was not able to attack me, but the nice part about that spiny, or that specific, there we go, we can actually connect this. The nice part about that is that there is tons and tons of clay up there. So in addition to there being the pond moss, there are these massive deposits of clay. That's a very pretty rose. Anyway, there's massive deposits of clay that once you shovel them up, there's like 15 clay just in one deposit. So I got tons and tons of clay. So I've not been balking about putting down some additional zip line anchors here, there, and everywhere. Additional things that I did, I had to restock on sprigs and other things to make my green machine smoothies. I think I've mentioned this before, but if you go down in this vicinity, it's really near this field station. So this is the plank in the ground, and then this is a big log. There's a field station next to it. Somewhere around here, there's a hot dog wrapper, and there is just a metric ton of sprigs around that wrapper. I also need them in this episode because we're going to be making some lighting and other such things. So you can see you can just run right through there, and you keep spamming the button to collect things, and you'll end up with tons and tons of sprigs in no time at all. You will also notice I've got a bunch of bee fuzz and pollen on me. That is because I have been killing every bee I can find on the picnic table. Why? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute as well. While I was down at the hot dog wrapper as well, I also found a rotten larva blade, which we need to analyze. In addition, here's all the pond moss that I got. And there is also this rotten larva blade. There is a leaf right next to the hot dog wrapper, and right underneath it, there was the larva blade was just kind of sticking out of a stone. So that's something that I have as well for today. Stop talking, Dr. Tully. I'm trying to intro here. Today is going to be all about the bounce web elevator and all that is in my head for my building that is going to contain the bounce web elevator. So for those of you that may not be familiar with the bounce web elevator, if you're here and you're not a regular Grounded player, oh, by the way, I've been switching out my floors for burr floors. I'm short on lint rope right now, but my intention is to hopefully replace the entirety of the first floor with these burr floors. They're actually super cool. And I mentioned this in the last episode. Now that you can relocate flooring and such, all I've been doing to replace that is I've been moving these floors, because if I would deconstruct these, all of that, the materials would fall down into my armory. And then I'd have to go down there and collect it all. So what I've been doing is I've been moving it like here, and then you recycle it, and then all your materials just fall right here in front of you. So that relocate function has been invaluable. And you'll see a little bit why here in a couple of minutes. But for now, let's like reconstruct this flooring so I don't fall through. So, the bounce web elevator, the concept behind that is if you use the bounce webs in such a way, you can actually create a whole like elevator effect. The bounce webs, they only put you upwards so far when you jump, but if you put them in succession with one another, you can actually create basically an elevator effect that'll take you to the top of a really tall building, so that you can actually use that to zip line out to places. Now, that was more important before you could go up zip lines. So, I mean, is this absolutely necessary? Probably not. I mean, I could probably connect to a lot of my zipline anchor points just by putting like this, this bee stinger right here. I could probably connect to it from some of the other places that I have. But I decided that's a bit of a cop-out, and I wanted to do a bounce web elevator anyway because I've had it in my head for a while, because my bounce web elevator is not just a bounce web elevator, and we will look at it here in a minute. So the first things first, though, is if you do this type of thing, at least in my location, your bounce web elevator is going to need to be high. And that's because, the pond is probably one of the lowest points on the map. So in order for me to kind of anchor out to other places the way that you normally would, it has to be, taller than a lot of places. Now, like I said, I have a little bit of leeway on that. I just realized I am going to get drink or die on my screen here soon. So I've got a little bit of leeway with where I can actually do my bounce web, or how high I can put my bounce web elevator, because of the fact that you can now go up zip lines. But I still wanted a pretty high building. So in preparation, I cut down approximately 2 million mushrooms, which I turned into mushroom slurry and then into mushroom brick. Then I cut down about 3 million weed stems, and those I've been using on and off, and I have a number of them stockpiled for us. I've also cut down tons and tons of grass planks, some of which I've got saved in preparation, some of which I've been putting through the grinder to turn into plant fibers to make rope. I think that pretty much brings you up to speed for everything that I want you to know. So you can actually see here, mushroom brick, I now have tons of. I also took a bunch of stuff out of my inventory because of the fact that I've been transporting a lot of things back and forth in preparation for this. I do have some rope crafted. I do not have a ton, unfortunately. You will also see I constructed a second oven. I moved them both over here because there really wasn't room. The other one was sitting here. There wasn't room to put them side by side, so I brought them over here. They are in fact still constructing mushroom brick as well. So when I said I was killing a lot of bees, why, right? Well, the reason is because of this monstrosity. So this is what I have been grinding and grinding and grinding. I have put tons of work into this, and we are not done. Is this the bounce web elevator? No, it is not. It will contain the bounce web elevator, but this is not the bounce web elevator. So let's go over here, and you can actually kind of see here what I've got stockpiled as far as resources. I used a lot of weed stems, so I've been collecting those on and off. And you can see I actually have sort of 2 pallets of grass planks. And we'll talk about why I actually have 2 of these right now, and I do not have. Basically, the costs for those different pallets, they're exactly the same. So I have been going out to places, so you can see it's 3 pine cone pieces, 4 clay, 1 lint rope. Same thing here, 3 pine cone pieces, 4 clay, 1 lint rope. So anytime I've run myself out of resources right around here, I deconstruct this thing, and then I run out somewhere else on the map, and then I'll zip line somewhere else out on the map. And then I'll reconstruct whichever pallet that I need out of the resources that I used to deconstruct it, and then I run it all the way back here. All right, so what is this thing? I said it's not exactly the bounce web elevator. It will contain it. This is what I am calling the museum. So are you ready for this? So this is the start of the bounce web elevator right here. It's going to be going in here. There is, in fact, a bounce web here. And that is because I'm going to show you exactly why I'm calling this the museum. This is all your worst nightmares in one building. So I've decided to turn this into a museum of every creature that we're able to construct. And I've been in the process of trying to collect all of the different pieces, which is why I needed bee fuzz, because these are considered stuffed animals. So a lot of them, they need to be stuffed with gnat fuzz, dust mite fuzz, bee fuzz, moth fuzz, all of those kinds of things. So I needed tons and tons of bee fuzz. So, and the worst part is I haven't even put the bee down yet. So I've been trying to lay these things out in such a logical way, in a little bit of a logical way anyway. So you can see this is going to be the mantis. I am not constructing that one yet because I do still, in fact, have to craft an armor piece. I believe I was corrected in the last episode. I had said that the other armor build that I'm asked to test is from Seal Peel, and they said that it's exactly the same as the build that we're running right now with TMR, except I said it was the faceplate of the mantis. That I was corrected after the last episode. It was actually supposed to be the chest plate. So we will be making that soon. But I didn't want to use any pieces that I'm going to need for that. So the mantis is not, there's not too much constructed. That is, of course, a firefly. That is all of the termites. So that is the termite worker. That's the king, the termite king. And that is the termite soldier, I believe it is. And then if we go over here, keep going up. This is our spider row. So this is the Black Widow plus the Widow Spiderling. Here is a regular Orb Weaver with the other Spiderling, and that's just mainly because I always see those other Spiderlings with the Orb Weavers down at the hedge. This, of course, is the Brood Mother, which we can still walk through because she's not fully constructed. I'm missing one Brood Mother chunk. I'm going to have to go down and fight her again. Here's a Wolf Spider, and here's a Diving Bell Spider. So this is a row entirely full of spiders. And the ones that are really, really big, they actually took 2 levels in order for me to be able to fit them in. Then we get to our beetle layer. So there is the Black Ox Beetle. Over there is the Bombardier. Then there is the Ladybird, Ladybug, or whatever it's called. And of course, here's the actual Ladybug. And there's a Roly-Poly. Then we get up here, I started losing some themes because, you know, I just kind of ran out of things. I believe this one's the Stink Bug. Or no, is this the green? This is the green shield bug. And I just needed something to put with it, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But you can see there's the fire ants right there. There's the worker ant and the soldier ant. These are the red ants, the worker ant and the soldier ant. Over there is the black soldier ant and worker ant. And then there's an ant lion right over there. Keeping going, we have the stink bug. And so I have a bunch more things that I need to put down. It was just a matter of trying to organize them. I believe I got to put down all of the larvae yet. There's the neutral creatures as well, like the aphid, the weevil, all of those kinds of things, all the flying insects, all of the swimming insects. And I have this space reserved because I went into, in order to be able to lay all of this out and make sure it was going to work for what I wanted it to, I actually started another game in creative mode and I designed this entire place. And it showed me that the queen wasp is going to require this enormous space as well. And so we'll probably put a bunch of our flying insects up here. And I, of course, lit them up with these standing torches. This is largely how I've been getting down from places, is I keep just jumping off the ledges. I put these, and I made sure that they were nice and red because this is supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to express danger because this is, you know, horrifying to walk in here and you see all these spiders. But the whole idea is going to be that once I get this going, we'll actually be able to go up the bounce web elevator backwards. Like, as we're going up the elevator, we will see all of the horrifying creatures just staring at us as we're going. So that is my plan for the bounce web elevator. We're gonna talk about how to build it, and for those of you that are not familiar, I will teach you how to build it. Hopefully I can do it correctly. I mean, I know how to build them, but sometimes I get them just off that they don't quite work properly. I've also done crazy things again. I created this anchor point, which actually takes us the entire way out to the picnic table. So there is a reason for that as well. And let's take a look at that here in a second. All right, so why did I spend time building an anchor over to the picnic table? Well, simply look at all the weeds. This is supposed to be one of the best locations to build at if you're looking to build with tons and tons. You can see all of the husky weeds down there. And so this is a place that I thought would be great for resources if I ran out at my own base, if I could get the weeds here really quickly. And that is because of the fact that you can actually use zip lines. Here, let me show you. I brought one up here as an example. I actually have a couple. You can actually zip line resources. So I can drop this down there and it is going to go down and it's going to be part of the sandbox now. So that one we'll have lost. But let's really quickly while we're here, let's analyze the pond moss. Oh, we can use that to make spiny water flea mounts and a stuffed spiny water flea. Okay. And then this larva blade. No new recipes, but we've at least analyzed it. All right, so let's go look at the anchor point that I built, however. So I built it on the other side of the table here. I was going to try to build it directly on the table, but unfortunately, for you to be able to zip line resources down, it needs to be a little bit high, because otherwise the resources get knocked off. I had the anchor point at the edge of the paper plate, and I couldn't send the resources down because they kept clipping the... I just realized I didn't finish a wall here. Silly me. Anyways, so I built this kind of little tower here, and all we do is I send this down here, and then they end up on top of my tower at the other end. And then I just have been using the the weed stem pallet, or the whatever pallet I happen to be sending resources down. I collect them at the other end, and then I move them to wherever I want them to be. Also, for those of you that have kind of the same problem that I do with some of the flying insects, I've kind of found out something that works really well with the bees. If you have this Black Ox crossbow that I'm using, you can see that I'm currently using feather arrows, and that's largely because of the fact that I had some mint arrows that I brought over here because the bees are supposed to be weak to fresh. And so I brought them over here, and when you shoot them the first time, they lose any of the arrows. The spicy, salty, minty arrows, they lose their effect, but they become regular feather arrows, which are, in fact, I think they're better than the splinter arrows. But I found something that works really well with the bees, because I found out that the bees are weak in their eyeballs. So normally what I've been doing for these is I shoot one of them to get their attention. Now I just lost an arrow because he flew away. All right, so if you get one in their attention, they all attack. Their first attack is exactly the same. It's kind of this charge that if you block it correctly and then you move to the side and you shoot them in the eyeball, it takes 2 arrows. Oh, I got a bee gold card from that. Awesome. And that's how I've been killing all of the bees. It's 2 shots, and I've been taking almost no damage. It's just, the only time I've taken damage is when I actually miss the shot or miss the perfect block, so that they're stunned, because that has been happening every time. So I shoot them, and then when you perfect block, they're stunned, and if you step off to the side, you can shoot them in the eye, and that is enough damage that it kills the bees in 2 shots. All right, so let's zip line to the other end now, and we'll see what the weed stems look like that I sent down here. Oh, by the way, guys, while we're zip lining along here, first of all, I got a really cool view of the pond with this specific zip line. But I did find out that was one of the things that I hadn't really paid a whole lot of attention to with this update until recently, when I started doing this museum, as I'm calling it. You get a it's called a chopping list. But anything that you're in the middle of constructing, it pops up on this chopping list in the build menu, so that you know what you need to grab in order to build at the different locations that you have. So all of the things that I need, like the mantis chunks and the bee fuzz and those kinds of things, they're all noted there, so you know exactly how much you need to finish construction of all your items. All right, so we're coming into the tower here. So all of my weed stems there they are. They popped in. They're just kind of laying here. So then, like I said, normally what my process was that I actually had I would reconstruct. So I would have deconstructed the pallet on that side, zip line back across, reconstructed it here, and plopped everything back in. I knew I needed 1 weed stem for that yet. But anyways, the rest of these weed stems, they're going to go back down because we're going to need them for building here in the not so distant future. All right, so I've got all that bee fuzz on me. I know I needed bee fuzz for the termites, and I believe I figured out that you can actually jump up 1 level, 1 story. All right, so there's our stuffed termite soldier. Here is our stuffed termite king. And then this is the worker. And this guy still needs all of the mantis chunks, the mantis claw, the mantis head. And I still, like I said, I've got to place some other stuff with the mantis there. And then, of course, with our actual, the spiders, the broodmother's still waiting on a broodmother chunk. This one's waiting on moth fuzz. I have not even encountered a moth yet. I think the only reason I've even got moth stuff in my inventory is because I found some moth parts in a box of some sort. Like one of the dig-up boxes. This still needs a green shield part. Here we go. Stuffed black soldier ant. And this stuffed black worker ant both needed bee fuzz. I think the ant lion does as well. What do you need? You need dust mite fuzz. I'm going to have to go get dust mites. I think those are in the... Yeah, the antlion needed that as well. I think the dust mites are in over near the charcoal grill. I mean, there might be other places too, but I'm pretty sure those are the ones that kept attacking me. And I think that should be every... So now if I look at my chopping list, yeah, I don't need any more bee fuzz. So, like I said, I need 2 dust mite fuzz, need to find a moth. And of course, I'm going to go back and battle the mantis and the brood mother at some point. Have to go back and get another green shield bug. In addition to where I fought the green shield bug before, which was somewhere in this vicinity, I believe there's also one under the porch. There's some sort of fertilizer bags that occur kind of in this vicinity of the porch. And I think if you go behind that, from what I've been told, there's green shield bug or 2, or I don't know how many. There's at least 1 back there as well. All right, so let's get on to the bounce web elevator, which is what today's episode is supposed to be about, and we haven't even started yet. All right, I believe I have everything on me that we should need in order to be able to keep going with the bounce web elevator. But let me first talk you through kind of how this works. So first of all, let's build these so I don't fall off the back and get eaten by the fish. So you can kind of see how this bounce web elevator, it goes partway through the wall, which is why it's accessible when you walk up to the wall, is because of the fact that you're kind of messing with the physics of the game by putting... Oh my gosh, stop walking into the bounce web elevator. So anyways, that's kind of how you build it. So when you actually go to construct the bounce web elevator, you will notice that there is... you will notice that there's one side. It's a really long side that has a very, very straight edge. And that is the side that you want to use to put, at least from what I understand anyway, that's the side that you want to use to put into the wall. And I'm going to try to line these all up pretty perfectly so that... Okay, we're going to have to... Here, we're going to have to move this out here. All right, so yeah, I'm going to try to line these all up on the same kind of plane, just so that they're exactly at the same location. So I'm looking at the positions of the left and right legs as well, so that hopefully we can get them all at the same place going forward. But you want to kind of make it so that it partially goes through the wall, just like that. And then when you walk up to the wall, it shouldn't, like right in the middle of the wall, it should in fact bounce you up there. All right, so let's go ahead and continue constructing some of these walls. I left them open because I thought I was going to have to do this from the other side. The museum, I think that it's as high up as I'm going to make the quote-unquote museum, but this is not as high as the bounce web elevator is going to go. So the bounce web elevator is going to continue beyond the platform that we have at the top there, but I need to bring in some materials. So let me relocate these things to the top, and I need to make sure that we have both weed stems and weed planks, because I'm going to try to vary the look of this a bit, because just the mushroom brick itself is, I mean, that whole structure, it's not the most intriguing to look at, so I'm going to try to make sure that this is done in such a way, you know, that that'll be visually appealing. But I need to kind of get my bearings here, so give me just a second to set this up. All right, so if you're doing this, the bounce web elevator will, in fact, go up about 3 tiers before you need to, which is kind of whereabouts I have it right there. So I'm going to go ahead and put some flooring down here so that we can prep to get the next bounce web done. This is going to be the complicated part, and this is actually why I have this stairwell in, is because I thought it would help. Well, in addition to the fact that I needed a way to be able to get to the bugs themselves, I thought that this would be a way for, it would be helpful for me to have this in order to continue construction. Let me put a wall up here. Anyways, it was in addition to the fact that I needed the stairs to be able to put the museum in before we did the bounce web elevator. I wanted to make sure I had a way to access this to build it, because I'm not using the handy gnat, is what I was trying to say there. All right, so let's go ahead and put down some additional flooring. I brought in the weed stem pallet, so hopefully that is accessible from here. All right, and let's go ahead and put this here as well. And we should be able to continue constructing walls on the way up that I left open in the back, because I thought I was going to need to construct that in that way. All right, that is where the next bounce web is going to go, because remember, we're bouncing from the outside of here. So we should be able to put that down shortly. Let's keep building up a little bit. I think I just put a blueprint down there that I didn't want to have down there. It's fine, we'll fix that in a bit. Okay, there is that. And you can see we can still get out because of this stairwell, which makes this super nice. You know, let's go ahead and... I guess there's no reason not to floor these, so if I inadvertently, like, run in here, I don't fall down, like, 45 layers. Let's go back to the bounce web, and let's construct another one of these, and then we'll test it to make sure that it's working properly. So you'll kind of see how they kind of chain together. All right, so again, we're looking for that really, really straight edge, which is directly in front of me right now. I have it turned towards me, but we want to turn it away from me, feed it into the wall as straight as possible. And then I'm going to kind of, again, look for my markers as to where I put the feet previously so that hopefully everything is as closely lined up to the bottom as possible. And I have all the materials along, so I went ahead and constructed it. They take bug rubber, they take flower petals, and they take sprigs. So I made sure I had plenty of those. But now if we go down, actually, let's put some additional walls up before we do so. Just because we're going to, like, my character is going to continue to try to... She's going to shimmy along there, and I want to make sure that I don't fall into someplace I'm not expecting to. That's all we need in order to be able to test this, so let's go down. Okay, so now we should be able to run, again, straight up at the wall. So you see we got up 2 layers this time, and now we're bouncing. We're technically... we're bouncing on the second layer of the bounce web. So when I jumped up, I was round about the point of the broodmother. We're now up to the black ox beetle. So a couple more tiers of this should take us the whole way to the top. But then, like I said, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to continue it even further, if that makes any sense. This is going to be like an epic, hopefully a bounce web elevator. Now, I did not give consideration to the fact that, again, it's 3 tiers, and all of my bugs they're like 2 tiers. So I gave, you know, there's 1 tier with the smaller bugs, and then there's, you know, of course, 2 tiers between the broodmother. But so that makes my next bounce web elevator kind of like part way between them. Let me figure this out really quickly. Okay, my next layer is weirdly like right here. So this one's going to be slightly more complicated to get into. I mean, I could put them more frequently, I guess, the bounce webs. It's kind of a waste of resources, but it might make sense just because of the fact that I've got... I mean, I don't have a lack of resources really right now. I think I'm just going to go ahead and do that. We're going to cancel this one that I have right here. And it'll be a little overkill, but I think it should be fine. I've never tested this on every, like, 2 tiers or whatever. But let's go ahead and... I need to put in the round pieces of the flooring. Where are the round pieces of the... There we go. All right, weed stems. All right. Also, I have no back behind me. I'm going to fall out, and I'm going to fall into the pond, and I'm going to get eaten by the fish. Let's make sure we've got walls behind us. Whoa, too high. All right, that one's constructed. All right, let's go ahead and put in another bounce web elevator. Or, I'm sorry, a bounce web. I'm making the elevator. I just need a bounce web. All right, my really straight section is now away from me. Again, going to move it to roughly the place where I think the other ones are. And I have all the materials. Let's go ahead and construct that. Now, again, I think this should work, but I've never tested it like this. Also, I can get rid of this wall now that I inadvertently placed here. All right, so let's move this weed stem pallet out of the way. By the way, I put these pillars here. I thought they looked really cool. And I will, at some point, I will close this in. And, oh, you know what would be really cool? Oh, I'm going to have to do that. I did not even think of that before now. Can you imagine? Hang on, let me find them. Wall sconces the whole way up. Can you imagine? I don't think I've got the materials to construct them right now, but, like, right there, and then you bounce up in between them the whole way. Oh, that's going to be fun. All right, let's test this. Yep, it works. All right, I don't want to land on that again. So I'm going to be doing some excessive bounce webs, but just so that they're every 2 layers, but I'm going to suck it up and deal with it. I went to all of this trouble to make sure that I had this monstrosity of a tower. I'm going to make sure that it works properly and that it's you know, I can construct things the way that is going to be easiest for me because, again, I'm not using the handy gnat at this point. Although I did use the handy gnat. I mentioned that, by the way. I started a game in creative mode, and I used the handy gnat in order to design this build before I came in here and wasted a bunch of resources and stuff. The handy gnat is actually pretty fun. All right, let's go ahead and, again, let's grab these corner pieces so I don't have to find them again. There's one of those. And then this one's right here, and I apologize, you guys probably are having a hard time seeing. There we go. All right, construct that, construct this, and now I can just copy this and rotate it over in the corner. These can be constructed. Copy you, place you in all the other corners. Finish the walls. Make more walls. This has been my life in this game for the past... Gosh, I don't even want to tell you how many hours I have put into this so far. It's been more than I care to admit. All right, finish the back wall while we're going. All right, next bounce web. I've already lost it. There it is. All right, guys, I think you get the concept now. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to... I need to get up to the top because the episode is already running long. Ah, can't see. My person is in the way. The episode is already running long, and I wanted to make sure we went over what I'm going to do along the top as well, but I need to be able to get there first. So let me align this stuff. This is not going... There we go. Finally went into place. And let me do this, and I'll jump back in with you in a few minutes. Alright guys, so I'm all the way at the top. I had to disconnect and move the zipline anchor. It probably will not work properly now because the fact that it requires space in order for the items to be able to get off the zip line. So like if we send stuff down, it might hit this wall and it might end up in the pond. I don't know. But whatever the case may be, I wanted to make sure we got this going. So this is kind of what I'm envisioning to keep going up through the tower. So you see we've got some windows now. So again, if we come up the bounce web elevator backwards, our backs are basically going to be against this wall. So we'll get up here and then there'll be a nice view. We'll see all of these windows. These, of course, ones are weed stems. But I thought we could alternate it between the different materials. I'm done with mushroom brick for a little while, but I like the look of these walls themselves, the ones that have some of the grass, which is why I've got some grass up here as well. I do need to go down and get some weed stems for us to be able to do this. I don't have... They're not within range at the moment. But part of the reason I don't have them up here is because both of my pallets, I mentioned I've got two of these fancy new pallets. Well, I broke down the one that was for weed stems and I turned it into a grass plank one because that was what I needed at the time. And so now they both have grass planks in them. So I need to be able to go down and get those as well. But we should be able to put the different walls using these. Let's see which way is out. It's this way. So this is what I'm thinking. Hopefully this ends up looking okay. I want to make sure I get a window on this side again. Now the bad part is I'm going to have to bring one of the other weed stem pallets up because I can't construct the grass layers because of the fact that they're not supported right now because I haven't built anything on this layer. But let's go down really quickly. I did finish all of the bounce webs. Is that too many layers? One, two, I'm not sure. We're going to go down and we're going to test the bounce web and make sure that it's working properly. All right, we're back down to the floor anyway. All right, so let's go here and let's test it out. Okay, some of them are I'm not getting caught on properly. So I might have to check that out and try to figure out which layers those are on. which is going to be easy to do if I actually go the direction. If I, like I mentioned, go backwards, we'll be able to see which layers that are failing because of the fact that we'll be able to see which insects are on them. You know what? Can I actually transport a pallet while we're doing this? I might be able to. Let's grab a weed stem pallet and see if we can take it up the bounce web elevator. I assume we'll probably be able to because of the fact that, you know, it's not doing anything with our hands. Yeah, we're getting stuck on that layer with the brood mother. I'm trying to move a little bit side to side. Okay. I'm gonna have to fix this one for sure. That is the one thing about the bounce webs is, like I mentioned, if you don't get them in the correct location, sometimes they'll be a little off to the left, a little off to the right, and then they don't work properly because of the fact that you're not exactly hitting them in all the same locations. All right, let's go ahead and construct these. And the reason this one's a solid wall is because, again, this is going to need to be... Wait, is that how I wanted that? I was going to say, that's going to need to be... There's going to need to be a bounce web back here, but I don't want to be walking out along here. I had done this intentionally to try to kind of line this up in the middle. But I'm thinking I might need to have... Goodness, this might actually need to move. Give me 1 second. I might have messed this up between my other build and... Or when I was kind of designing this in this one. Okay, so I primarily just needed to shift the whole thing. It's not quite centered now, unfortunately. But it looks like... So if I move this out of the way, just so that it's out of here, I just need to put up another wall. Because I'm going to, like I said, put the bounce web elevator in... Or the bounce web in here so that we can continue our ascent. But in order to actually kind of enclose that, it's going to be kind of like this. All right, so let's go ahead and move this guy out of the way and put our bounce web down. All right, I think that's in the location it needs to be. And I made tons and tons of bug rubber. I'm not sure how much I'm actually going to end up using, but all right, there's the wall. All right, so that's going to keep going. And then, like I mentioned, this is where we're going to alternate materials so that it gives a little bit of an aesthetic change. So here we're going to go ahead and put the... I am going to need to move one of these walls kind of, you know, indefinitely until we get done with this. All right, let's copy that one, and we're going to put that here. This is the part where I'm going to have some issues that I'm not quite sure how I'm going to construct this because of the fact that I, of course, at this point do not have the handy gnat, and this is going to be a little bit death-defying, which is kind of one of the things, I think that's why they implemented the handy gnat, is because these always were death-defying to build. I remember building this with the game that I was playing with my nephew, and I fell off of this thing. Well, not this thing precisely, but whatever one we were building at the time. I fell off on a number of occasions, and I think there was at least one time when I died because I didn't have a dandelion tuft, or it ran out or something. I'm not sure which. All right, so let's go ahead and put our windows down. And we're going to go like too high with the grass ones. So it's going to be weed stem, grass, grass, weed stem. It's going to be how this is going to alternate. But I really need to get rid of the actual... I need to get rid of the grass planks out of here so I can bring the... So I can bring the other ones up here. Turn this into a pallet for weed stems. I think that's about as many as I need, unfortunately. So this is what I mentioned about the reconstructing the pallets. Of course, I just deconstructed the weed stem pallet. So then all we should have to do, because it's the same resources for both of them, I'm just going to turn it now into a... I'm sorry, the grass plank pallet I deconstructed. We just turn it into a weed stem one now. And then we should be able to pretty much just fill this up and take it up to the top right where we were. And then everything will be accessible because it will be close enough for us to actually have access to the pallet itself. Also, for those of you that are afraid of heights, this is another way to get down. That one hurt a little bit. I should have gotten the grass, or the dandelion toughed out a little sooner, but I needed to come back down and get my grass planks. Alright guys, I think I figured out how to not die. I've already put these walls up, and now we're going to go ahead and, again, put the other walls, just so that you can kind of see the process. So let's put all of these walls on here. I probably will not be able to construct... What is that attached? Oh. Yeah, I don't want that there. I won't be able to construct all of these rounded ones until I get some more weed stems, but I should be able to actually put the... Should be able to get all of these down, I do believe. And we're, of course, going to want this. Or wait a second. Not... This is actually going to be one of these. Which is, this is not constructed. Do I want this constructed now? I think I do. I'm trying to make sure I don't construct anything that's going to block me. And obviously I'm going to need a floor here because of the fact that, oh gosh, how am I going to keep getting up on these things? If I put a floor here now, that is a really interesting question that I do not know the answer to. Because in order to be able to continue to build this taller, I'm not quite sure. But whatever the case may be, let's go ahead and put the last window here. And then I'll probably go ahead and I will continue constructing. And I will bring you guys kind of back in at the end of the process. There's that. And I want to make sure I get you done. And then I would like to copy you over here because I'm going to need to continue you for the purposes of the bounce web. I'm officially out of grass planks, which means I need to go get more. Alright guys, well this is the whole... Oh gosh, I don't want to fall down that hole. I'll fall the whole way down to the bottom. But I should be able to jump over here. This is how I was kind of setting it up before. Anyways, that is the whole process for the bounce web elevator. Let's go ahead one more time. We're going to, jump our way down to the bottom. I don't think I can take that with me, unfortunately, because I think when I get out my dandelion tuft, it'll kind of track back up to here. But let's go ahead and test it one more time, all the way up to the top, now that we've got it completed. Well, as completed as possible. So let's... Okay, we made it the whole way up to the grass layers, which is obviously what we want. I did get stuck, obviously, again, on one of those layers. I'm not sure which one, but I will have to kind of take a look at that and try to figure out why. I took more damage. I should put a bandage on. Anyways, let me go ahead and grab the rest of my stuff in addition to a drink, which I'm dying of thirst, and then I'll show you guys what I come up with. So guys, I've mentioned how much of a big deal it is that you can now relocate floors and walls. So I'm trying to put these sap sconces along here. I can place them, but then I can't reach them to craft them. So what I've been doing is I've just been moving one of the floors. And this one is actually in the wrong place, so let's scoot it over just a little bit. But then I can craft it, light it, customize it, set it to the red color that I'm using. Same thing with this one, craft it, light it, set it to the red color that I'm using, and then I just move the floor back. It's been incredible being able to do this. So anyways, I am in the middle of finishing all of the lighting on the way up, but I've got a ways to go yet. You can kind of see the tower, even just the mushroom brick part is still quite... I've got a little ways to go. But let's go ahead and take a look at everything is finished here, I believe. And some of it's still a little wonky from time to time. I don't know exactly how to fix that. But you can kind of see the tower obviously goes... The mushroom brick part goes up... gosh, I think it's probably like a dozen or more tiers, and then I've got the top of the part at the top. So let's go test it out. All right, here we go. For some reason, I'm getting shoved back on some of the ones at the top. So here we are at the top. I did, in fact, connect a number. I'm short on... I need to get more silk rope to be able to connect this. So this anchor is connected to the picnic table. It's also connected to my anchor over by the charcoal grill. That's the one that's not quite done yet. And it's connected to that anchor point, which is kind of partway along that top tier wall. Then this one over here is actually not connected at the moment. One of them needs to be connected to the back porch. That might end up being this one just because of the fact that it doesn't have another function at the moment. I put one straight on here because it can now get over to the one by the Barbie car. This one is also not really connected at the moment. It might end up turning. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I am running into a couple of issues. I, of course, have anchor points at the baseball and also, which is somewhere about that vicinity, and also in the sandbox somewhere about that vicinity, and they're both blocked by the tree. So, like, you can, if you actually go into the connection, I can connect up to my existing platform, and then if that should be the baseball right there. And that should be the sandbox. And then, of course, over here is the actual picnic table. And I also connected this one to my new anchor point over near the Black Widow. So I might end up having to keep, I don't know, I might end up having to keep that platform over there with all of the anchor points just to be able to get to the baseball and the sandbox. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about that. Obviously, it would have been ideal if I would have set up from, here from the start, but I would have never had any sort of connectivity to the baseball or the sandbox. I probably would have had to pick somewhere else. I'm not even sure where I would have picked necessarily. But anyways, so, and then of course, how do we get down to the house once we're up here? Well, I am glad you asked. You can see there's a missing piece here.
Oh my God!
And we run face first into the wall. Looks a little painful. She doesn't seem to complain. All right, guys, but that is going to be it for this episode. This is taking me so many hours to get this completed, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. So I'm going to thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, feel free to like and comment. Also subscribe so that you get notified of future videos. But for now, my name is Hawk, and this has been Grounded, and I will catch you guys next time.